Ancient Egypt. A mystery wrapped inside an enigma covered in sand. What hold does Egypt have over us? With the collective 4,000 years of history, before we even get to the birth of Christ, it is staggering how much of a hold Egypt has over us. I mean, we're so fascinated by it, we even have a name for it, Egyptomania. But where did Egyptomania start? How did ancient Egypt go from just another society to being one of the most well-documented and most talked about topic in history? Let's take a closer look and find out. Our story does not actually start where you think it does. It actually starts in antiquity. When we think about ancient history, we often think about it as being the trifecta of Egypt, Rome, and Greece. But it actually is fascinating to just picture it, that Greece and Rome were just as fascinated by Egypt as we are today. With Herodotus writing about ancient Egypt era, or just Egypt as it was known, in the 5th century BC. And considering how he's meant to be the father of historians, it kind of says something about historians that even from the beginning, we're talking about Egypt. And even those who were really contemporaries with Egypt were fascinated by it. When Emperor Augustus conquered Egypt in 31 BC, one of his advisors, Caius Cestus, I think I'm saying that right, had commissioned a pyramid-shaped tomb for himself, which it seemed took between 18 and 12 BC to be constructed. Man, those darn pyramids, they're just fascinating everyone. Whoever those aliens were that dropped it down, they really had something going there. And then later in 130 BC, Emperor Hadrian of Hadrian's Wall had a pyramid built as a tomb for his lover, Antinous, because that was a thing at the time. Going back to Augustus, it's kind of ironic that a lot of the fascination with Egypt came after his conquering of Egypt, considering how one of the main ways he conquered Egypt and became Emperor Augustus was by using propaganda against Mark Antony for his relationship with Cleopatra for being, as that was seen as, un-Roman. Shoes on the other foot now. Now history didn't have a lot of time after this to really get into ancient Egypt after, you know, there was the whole period of, you know, Rome falling and everything having to, you know, rejig itself, you know, stuff happens. It wasn't until the Renaissance that things really got started again because, you know, the Renaissance was happening. I mean, it is the best period in history for a reason. With the rediscovery of classical writings such as Herodotus, people became fascinated once more with ancient Egypt, along with something called the Hermetic texts, which was apparently something written by this mystical Egyptian figure by the name of Hermes Trismegistus. Goodness.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
By the name of Hermes Trismegistus. By the name of Hermes Trismegistus. By the name of Hermes Trismegistus. By the name of Hermes Triceratops. Soon Rome was having obelisks erected within the city. And even popes were getting in on the action, having pyramid-shaped tombs built for their tombs. Egyptian-style decoration was rampant, with sphinxes and obelisks even being placed into royal gardens. But with all that being said, all of this was kind of just a fascination with the trappings of ancient Egypt. It's not as though anyone had a clear understanding of the science behind ancient Egypt, the real history, the hieroglyphics, the figures that were key to ancient Egypt. No one really knew about it. That is, until Napoleon came around. Napoleon's campaign from 1798 to 1801 was pivotal, as its discovery of several artifacts, along with the bringing along of scientists, opened the floodgates to Egyptology, bringing eyes to Egypt and money. And you can bet people were out there just exploring every nook and cranny of Egypt, trying to find kings and tombs and artifacts, and poring over texts, and just doing everything possible to learn as much as they could about Egypt as possible, with the Rosetta Stone in particular serving as a key historical discovery, leading to the deciphering of hieroglyphics. But it was still kind of niche. It was for the history nerds. It wasn't in the public conscious. No one really cared about it except for those that went out of their way to care about it. Man, if only there was some sort of event in Egypt which could hit the headlines. You know, really grab the public consciousness and really bring Egypt to the forefront. Hey Howard, you busy? With much of Egypt waiting to be uncovered, it was only a matter of time before some great discovery hit the headlines. And in 1923, that is just what happened, with the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb by Howard Carter, hitting the headlines and the subsequent following of a curse, presumably. And it's no wonder that Howard Carter's discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb gripped the imagination such as it did, considering all the artifacts that were found within said tomb. all the artifacts needed for the afterlife, the sarcophagus itself, the gold encrusted items. But I'm sure something that Tutankhamun didn't have was my book, The Land of Untold Stories, now available on Amazon. Link in the description. Igniting the public imagination to the sand dunes and pyramids. And we've been gripped by it ever since. I mean, the key example of this is the Art Deco movement, but if you look at literature, art, music, films, we have been gripped by Egyptomania ever since. And why is that? Well, I suppose the key to answering that question lies in the question itself. 4,000 years. We are talking about 4,000 years before the birth of Christ. That is so much to go through. I mean, if you really can put it into perspective, by 4,000 years, here in Britain, we were still hitting stuff with stones. We were far and away behind. With Egypt being so advanced and so full of history, it is no wonder that it is full of theories, conjectures, wild conspiracies. I mean, I've alluded to them myself. And that is very much a good thing. I mean, how many of us got interested in history because of ancient Egypt? It's sort of become the gateway drug to learning about history. Going from a niche topic that some historians and antiquarians used to basically have as a hobby, to being one of the most well-known subjects in history. I mean, that is a great thing. And news is always abound of new discoveries, and people pay attention whenever there are, because it's Egypt. Think of how much funding has been given to projects and digs and excavations within Egypt just because the presentation says it's in Egypt. So much added to the historical caliber just because of this one topic. Just because of this one mania. It's fascinating, and I wonder if it will happen for any other historical eras. I will put it in writing. There will be a neo-renaissance. But what do you make of it? Comment down below with your own thoughts and what you think of ancient Egypt. What is your favourite part of ancient Egypt? But until next time, thank you for watching and be seeing you.